Let's begin the broadcast with the latest that we are getting for you. A separate Twitter handle for evacuation operations in Ukraine has been released now. Prime Minister Modi is chairing a crucial meeting with the External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, who in fact is apprising the Prime Minister of the evacuation process. A detailed presentation is being made. On the other hand, we're playing out visuals of the new Twitter handle, a separate Twitter handle for the evacuation operations. Indians who are stranded in Ukraine will benefit a great deal out of this. They can directly tweet on this particular handle and get a quick response from the Indian authorities. Let's go across to Srinjoy Chaudhary joining us on the broadcast with more details. Srinjoy, a high-level meeting is underway. There are two important aspects. One, a presentation on the evacuation process. Two, this Twitter handle which has now been released, a separate Twitter handle for the evacuation operations in Ukraine.
Well, the most important thing is to get all the Indians back. And that is what the Prime Minister wants to know, how it's going to happen, what is the process. Now, it's not going to be very easy, and that's the very clear message. India has to get students out of war zones. In that Kharkov area and in the southeast and in Odessa, where the battles between the Ukrainians and the Russians are going on right now, as is the case in Kyiv. So as a result, to get students out of war areas where the fighting is going on is not going to be easy. There are at least 2,000 students in Kharkov and in the southeast. So that's a lot of students, and a considerable number of students also in the areas around Kyiv where fighting is going on. So there are still about 11,000 students in Ukraine, and every effort is being made to ensure that they come back. Now, whether it's through Poland, and if there are problems in Poland, through Hungary or Slovakia or Romania, that is being worked out. The flight schedule is also there. So now the important thing is to make every effort, including from getting people from Russia to that Kharkov site, to get as many Indians out as quickly as possible.
That remains the top priority and the agenda. In this high-level meeting, what else is being discussed? Srinjoy, remember during the press conference of the Foreign Secretary as well, several questions were posed to why aren't Indian students and Indian nationals being evacuated from the Russian side? Why only Romania and Hungary and Slovakia and Poland, where in fact the entire route has been clogged because locals, Ukrainians, are also leaving?
Yes, undoubtedly. The point is, the Foreign Secretary also said, now people are being sent from Russia to try and get people out from the eastern side. As I said, there are 2,000 Indians in that Kharkov and south, which is in the east and the southeast of Ukraine. Now, how do you get the 2,000 out? Which is why Indians have gone from Moscow to the eastern side in the hope that there will be some opportunity to get people out of Kharkov.
Absolutely. Srinjoy, thank you for getting us those details. We're moving on, and let's get our viewers the latest from Ukraine, as Ukraine is continuing to fight against the Russian invasion as the military operation announced by President Vladimir Putin entered day 4. Now, Moscow has said that it is ready for talks with Ukraine in Belarus. Remember, earlier the Ukrainian president had refused to hold these talks in Belarus, saying that they do not want to talk in a country which has been used as a launch pad against Ukraine. But now, according to reports, they in fact have agreed to those talks. So talks soon going to happen. Both countries would be on the negotiating table. We have journalists joining us with the latest. Let's first go across to Jonathan Gilbert. Jonathan, what really is happening on ground? The latest that we are picking up is that talks will happen soon. Ukraine earlier had refused to hold these negotiations in Belarus, citing Belarus being used as a launch pad. But after a quick phone call from the Belarusian leaders, they've changed their mind, so talks would now be held in Belarus.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds like very credible information to me. I mean, look, Belarus is by all accounts a Russian satellite state. It marches to the beat of Moscow's drum. And the notion of treating Belarus as an independent and and an absolutely ridiculous concept that Belarus might be regarded as an independent nation. Absolutely is not. So I very much hope indeed that those talks will go ahead. But the position of Belarus is quite curious at this stage.
Indian students are stuck. There are evacuation operations underway, and there's a refugee crisis also that the world is staring at, and Central Europe especially.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, sorry, I don't know if that question was addressed to me, but I've seen these refugees with my own eyes. There's an absolute humanitarian crisis unfolding within Ukraine at the moment. I mean, there are, as you say, something between 10 and 12,000 Indian nationals still remaining within Ukraine. They're pouring through the borders at the moment. The majority of them seem to have chosen the southern border via Romania, which is probably a very sensible decision, given that the Polish border, which I'm not so far away from as we speak, is absolutely clogged with refugees, not only Indian people, but people from all nationalities, and specifically Ukrainian nationals as well. So there's going to be a huge challenge at the moment to try and get those Indians out of Ukraine. But the majority of them have taken the sensible decision to go south.
Jonathan, stay on with us. We're also joined by Guillaume Tak, joining us from the Ukraine-Poland border, and we have Irina joining us from Kyiv. I hope I'm getting your names correct. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your names, but I want to come to you, Guillaume. Ukraine-Poland border, that's the place from where a lot of Indian students were asked to go back, because we spoke to some of them who are saying that the route is clogged and it's very difficult for them to cross the border. What is the situation on ground?
So we found ourselves at the moment at the train station of the last big Polish city by the border with Ukraine. And as you can see by the flurry of activity behind me, there's an estimated 115,000 Ukrainian nationals that have been pouring across the border ever since the Russian invasion began. And they keep coming by trains, by cars, some of them by foot. The last village, the last Ukrainian village from to the Polish border is roughly 18 kilometers. We've seen families walking roughly 20 kilometers to get to the border crossing. I've met people who spent a whole day, even more than that, trying to cross. So we keep seeing people pouring across the border, and I have to say that they've been met with open arms by the Polish authorities and by the Polish citizenry also. We've seen a lot of displays of compassion on behalf of the Polish people. We've seen earlier today citizens, just Polish inhabitants of the region, coming to bring food, to bring comfort, to bring clothes, to bring diapers for the kids. So the Polish people have been very welcoming to the Ukrainians trying to cross, but it is obviously a very difficult humanitarian crisis at the moment. The people that we've met are tired, they're scared, they're exhausted. Some of them have lost everything that they had. I spoke earlier to Didier, which is a Congolese national who lived for 29 years in Kyiv. He told me that he left with a pair of underwear and jeans and his whole family with him. They couldn't take anything else, and at the moment they're going to have to rely on the generosity of family members and strangers to get by in the next couple of days. And we can expect people to keep pouring as the Russian invasion proceeds further.
Absolutely. The neighboring countries have opened their doors and their borders as well. They are welcoming Ukrainians who are fleeing the country. Guillaume, earlier Poland in fact also announced that there won't be any requirement of visa for Indian students who enter Poland. Is that for other okay, I think you're responding. Yes, go ahead please. If you can hear me, just go ahead.
All right. Yes, as I said, the situation is difficult. It is unfolding at the moment. The Polish authorities are trying their best to manage the situation, but of course, uncertainty prevails, sadness and despair also. There are glimmers of hopes in the response that the the Polish people and that the international community has been able to muster. But those people need help, and they're unfortunately going to need help for quite some time. We've seen drivers offering to take people to Wrocław, which is closer to the German border. People offering rides to Warsaw, people offering food, clothes, water. So this has been a very powerful outpouring of support, but unfortunately the people here are going to have to keep it up, as the queue to reach to the border is still very long, and people, as you can see, keep pouring in from the Ukrainian border at the moment. So this is the situation on the ground now at the Polish-Ukrainian border in Przemysl.
All right, please stay on with us. I want to bring in Irina as well. Over 1 lakh people have fled Ukraine. Over a lakh, we are being told, are internally displaced. Ever since the Ukrainian government has agreed to hold these talks in Belarus, is there any change in the situation on ground in Kyiv? Have those loud noises of the explosions stopped?
I'm sorry, I should note that I've left Kyiv
Okay.
3 days ago.
Right.
It took me 3 days to get from Kyiv to Lviv. I basically arrived yesterday night with my colleagues. We've heard sirens in Vinnytsia, which is more or less central western Ukraine, and it was the first time that I've heard sirens, and I had to run to the bomb shelter like 3 times before going to sleep. Then we woke up with sirens at around 5 a.m. When we left Kyiv, I've heard explosions from the hotel in central Kyiv, a very central place. And we left around 11 a.m. after the invasion started, and we were totally scared and terrified. And I could see from the top floor of the hotel that the Russian embassy was burning papers in their yard. And we were lucky to escape that day at 11 a.m. We were lucky to get a car, and we went to central Ukraine. Slept in a very remote hamlet, then drove further, then slept in Vinnytsia, and in total it took us 3 days to get to Lviv, when normally it's 5 hours by train. So I haven't followed political news much, and I'm sure that Kyiv doesn't sleep, and explosions and missiles are regular, and people are terrified, but the Ukrainian army is fighting back.
I want to bring in Jonathan as well. Jonathan, what is the kind of arrangement that is being made at this point of time, keeping in mind the refugee crisis, which is only worsening, keeping in mind the various operations, evacuation operations that must be underway, not just that of the Indian students, but individuals of other nationalities as well?
Well, look, I'm standing in Poland at the moment. I was in Romania this morning, and frankly, there's a number of countries involved here, maybe 6 or 7, if I was to do a rough calculation. Every single one of them has a consular or an embassy presence, and every single one of them has a certain responsibility for Indian nationals, if not other refugees and evacuees. So go figure. The basic principles remain the same. If people show up at the border, they will be treated with compassion and humanitarianism. But Hungary, Romania, Poland, Moldova, you name it, every single one of them is an independent and sovereign state, and every single country there has to make its own decision about how to treat refugees. What I've seen is that Romania, for instance, is allowing refugees to enter almost indiscriminately. We're hearing that Poland is allowing people over the border, but they have something like 20-mile traffic tailbacks at the moment. Moldova has relaxed all its restrictions. So if you're a refugee, if you're an evacuee and you're watching this, I don't know what to say to you, but basically head to a border and let's hope that they're a friendly and welcoming country.
Is that the situation from where you're reporting, Game? Because we spoke to some Indian students and, they told us that there are massive traffic jams on the way. They've had to walk kilometers to reach the Poland border, and the students were mistreated. Some of them also alleging that, they were hit. They were asked to go back. You're not audible. I can't hear you. Can you unmute yourself, please?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
We have some national students that were living in Ukraine at the time, where I have read reports that they were visited mostly by Ukrainian border guard soldiers, not by the Poles. But then again, I have not witnessed it personally, and I cannot attest to those affirmation rumors. It is unfortunately this impossibility, just like the crisis the Belarus border showed. Some police officers and border officers have demonstrated a lot of empathy and capacity, but unfortunately, the other way is also true, and we can't say for certain that it has happened, but it is a very distinct possibility.
Irina, do you think these sanctions that are being imposed are going to act as a deterrent as far as Russia is concerned, or Vladimir Putin is going to, unseat the government, the current establishment? That is what a lot of experts have been saying. The ultimate goal is to unseat the current establishment and to establish a puppet regime. Until then, Russia won't stop. What is your assessment of what really is going to happen?
I honestly don't know, but what I know is that we have, the world has to act united, and it should be a complex measures of deterrence, not only sanctions, but also providing Ukraine with defensive weapons, providing Ukraine with ammunition, all the possible equipment to help Ukrainians fight back. Russia is not that strong as we imagine and as we've thought. We can see that the Ukrainian army, which is not that big and not that powerful as Russian, it is fighting back and it is standing strong despite everything, and Russian occupants are afraid of it. That's why they are negotiating right now. They haven't expected that the resistance would be so huge. They thought that they would just come and invade in one day, and this blitzkrieg plan didn't work. So the only measure to deter Russia is to help Ukrainians fight and to impose sanctions in parallel. I think that the whole world has to act united against it and to prevent this regime from destroying Ukraine and imposing severe damage on Europe.
Absolutely. And this fight for domination, innocent individuals are losing their life, their property, their homes, forced to flee Ukraine, internally displaced, massive humanitarian crisis which is unfolding in Ukraine, and a refugee crisis which is only worsening. Thank you very much, Rinjoy, Jonathan, Guillaume and Irina for joining us on the broadcast and for telling us the latest that is unfolding on ground. Let's take a look at some more reports and some conversations that we had with the Indian students who are stuck in Ukraine, living in the conflict zones.
It is the largest city near the Ukraine border, and since the Russian invasion began, Ukrainian refugees have been pouring through the border, most of them through the train station that you can see here. An estimated 115,000 Ukrainians have been pouring through the border, and they've been welcomed by the Polish people. As you can see, apart from Ukrainian refugees, you can also see members of the Straż Graniczna, which is the Polish border guards, hard at work. You also have donations, clothing, water, food has been provided by the Polish citizenry for the Ukrainian neighbors. And as the war continues in Ukraine, and that the capital city of Kyiv is now threatened by armored advances by the Russian forces, we expect more and more of those kind of scenes to keep playing out in Ukraine, in Poland, and in the neighboring countries of Ukraine. So as you can see, Polish citizens have been bringing food, supplies, anything really that can help the Ukrainians in their times of need. 115,000 people have already poured across the border, and we can expect many, many more in the coming days and weeks as the Russian invasion is still in full effect.
My name is Faiz. I'm a third year student in Bombay National Medical University. As you can see, we are in a bunker right under our hostel. We are actually stuck over here for the past 3 days. We are currently running really low on food. We do not have enough water to make it to the next day. We are in a curfew till tomorrow 8 a.m. We are not sure what is going to happen the next moment. We can hear a lot of gunfires, a lot of missiles fired, maybe around us. We are not aware of what the situation is outside. The condition inside the bunker is really bad.
It's not habitable. There's so much dust. I know a lot of people who are facing allergies and issues with breathing, etc. This is not habitable. The conditions, it's very cold here. There's no heater system, etc. working here. The bunkers go deeper and deeper. The first level has good connection. Inside, it keeps breaking. So we either have to find a place to sleep or we could talk to our parents. That's a very difficult choice that we're being forced to make. The conditions are so hostile, and in all of this, we're supposed to praise the evacuation of students from the border. I mean, what really is our fault that we did not enroll to a university which is located near the border?
It's not a good thing over here. Like, everybody from the border is actually getting evacuated in the first place. We're actually stuck in Kyiv. We are surrounded from all the sides. We are unable to do anything. We are just stuck.
The head of state is here. We're obviously going, the wrath of Russian military is going to be seen here only. Why is our severity not being noticed? I do not really know.
Even the embassy hasn't tried to reaching out to us. There is around 700, 800 people stranded in this bunker right now.
The conversation with the embassy is only one-sided. We keep texting them and we get like a pre-recorded message from them. And the calls, they never receive the calls. There's not no one-on-one conversation.
Even they decline the calls. I don't know what is going down. We need all the help. We need all the help to reach out. We need all the help to reach to the borders. And we want to get evacuated as soon as possible from here. Because it's a hell down here. We don't want to stay over here. It's really bad.
It's been quite few days with no response. We need the embassy to show us at least a ray of hope. At least let us know that they are working on the evacuation. At least let us know that by when do we have to leave here. So we are prepped and we can keep our morals up. Because right now we're very demotivated.
Yes, we are really demotivated and really running for our lives. I don't think any human should be in this position. Everybody should.
We don't hope this for our worst enemies.
Yes. And we haven't slept in the past 3 days.
Yeah.
We cannot shut our eyelids. We cannot shut our eyelids in the confidence that a missile might not fall on us. A missile might fall on us. We are not sure of that. There is firing going around here. Please help us, India. We need all the support. Indian Embassy, please respond to our call as soon as possible.
We are the students of Sumy State University. For the time being, we are moved to our bunkers because the situation here is getting a lot worse than yesterday. Actually, the Russian troops have completely rounded us with our territories and streets. Situation is getting extremely worse here. This is the situation of our current bunker. They are not provided with any basic facilities, or we don't have any charging point. As it is underground, the network connection is also very weak here. And about the food facility, we just have our food and water just for 2 more days. With us, all the students of Sumy, like Sumy is just situated 40 kilometers away from the Russian, and like we don't have any information from the embassy towards saying about the evacuations and things.
So those people are coming from Western Ukraine. They took exception to the fact that I am speaking Russian. Unfortunately, it is the only language that I master here. But I perfectly understand that for cultural and ideological reasons at the moment, they do not really have a very positive outlook on the whole situation. So it is kind of hard to engage with the people at the moment. It's understandable. They've been through a terrible situation. The people that we just spoke to came from Western Ukraine. They've been fleeing the onslaught of Russian forces. And at the moment, they're participating, and the people that they told me that they were actively helping to bring the water supplies that you can see here and the clothing to other Ukrainian refugees. So those scenes that are playing out here, we can expect to see much more of them in the coming days or weeks until the diplomatic solution is found to this to the crisis.
With that, we are slipping into a very short break for now, but a lot more is lined up on the other side as well for you. Stay on with us. Welcome back. Political slugfest has erupted over the evacuation process. Prime Minister Modi assured that the government would bring back stranded Indians. On the other hand, Congress MP Rahul Gandhi has slammed the government, saying it's a distraction. The country needs action and not distraction. Listen to what the Prime Minister said.
जो वैश्विक हालात है उस पर प्रत्येक भारतीय की नजर है। इस चुनौती भरे कालखंड में भारत ने हमेशा अपने एक एक नागरिक के जीवन की सुरक्षा को सर्वोच्च प्राथमिकता दी है। जहां भी संकट आया, हमने अपने नागरिकों को सुरक्षित वापस लाने के लिए कोई कोर कसर नहीं छोड़ी है। ऑपरेशन गंगा चलाकर हम यूक्रेन से भी हजारों भारतीयों को वापस ला रहे हैं। हमारे जो बेटा बेटी अभी भी वहां हैं, उनको पूरी सुरक्षा के साथ अपने घर पहुंचाने के लिए सरकार दिन रात काम कर रही है।
Up, we are joined by BJP spokesperson Tuhin Sinha. We have Sanjay Jha on the broadcast as well, suspended Congress Neta, and former Ambassador Manjeev Puri. Good evening to all of you. I first want to come to you, Tuhin Sinha. The allegation is that your government is using this opportunity as a PR exercise. The government is not proactive. In fact, Shiv Sena MP has said that the entire evacuation process is very disgraceful. Rahul Gandhi saying, we don't need distractions, we need action.
Swati, history has shown that whenever the Congress runs out of power, it also runs out of sagacity, wisdom and grace. You know, I think in the last 7 years, we don't need certificates from these people to show how much we have cared for Indians abroad in difficult situations, whether it was on the onset of the COVID pandemic 2 years ago, whether it was in Afghanistan 6 months ago, or whether now. In the last 2 days, Operation Ganga has resulted in nearly 1,000 students coming back home at a time when the U.S. has washed its hands off the entire process. The U.S. does not want to bring its citizens back. We have taken the onus, and in fact, that is even our stand at the UN, UNSC was dictated by the primary concern that our citizens should be safe, and this has been conveyed by the Honorable Prime Minister to both the Russian President and his counterpart. So I don't think these frivolous allegations hold any virtue. I think they are made for a very petty purpose of scoring brownie points, which should be avoided by any responsible opposition party in this crisis.
Who's politicizing the issue is the big question, Mr. Jha, because over 500 students have returned back. Yes, there's a large number of stranded Indians out there in Ukraine, but the evacuation process is underway. So why say this is a disgraceful evacuation process, or why say this is a distraction? Action is happening on ground. A result of that is that Indian students have been evacuated and brought back safely home.
You know, let me be very forthright here. This is a very weird government. If you give them a constructive suggestion, if you try and tell them that there are students out there who are still desperate, and I'm very happy that Times Now actually showed students in bunkers who are telling your channel that they're starving, that the Indian embassy is not picking up the phone. The truth is, there's a Times of India report that says that the guards at the borders are asking people to give bribes of $200 or $300. There are guards who are also saying that now that the government of India has not backed Ukraine on the UN security resolution, they're saying you expect support from us. So you can imagine how helpless these young students are. And I think this is a bipartisan issue. I think when Rahul Gandhi or any member of the opposition receives a video that has a desperate plea for help, what are we supposed to do? We are not the government, the BJP is. And the truth be said, and let us kind of accept it. Tuhin is a very good friend of mine. But let me also, since you mentioned history has shown, Tuhin, you should know that during the Gulf War, 30 years ago, the Congress-led government rescued 112,000 people without any dramebazi. Little later in Egypt, just 1 minute, I didn't interrupt you. I didn't interrupt you, Tuhin. Let us have a civilized conversation.
At that point of time.
And let me have a conversation with you. No, you don't know your facts. You're sounding a little ignorant here. Let me correct you. Anyway, let me carry on. In Egypt, when we had a crisis, the government of the Congress at that point of time rescued 12,000 people. So please do not give us lectures on governance. So, you should act with a little bit of honesty and integrity here. The optics are terrible. That Mr. Modi is giving a yarn in an election campaign in Uttar Pradesh about Operation Ganga, where you are hearing simultaneously desperate, helpless, frantic calls for help from young students who went there to make a life and a career. To statements that, please don't go to small countries to study medicine. I think these are pathetic comments at what I call as Atmanirbhar politics. It's about time they graduated out of these petty insecurities.
Okay, I want to bring in Mr. Puri. Mr. Puri, of course, political blame game and a political slugfest is erupted here on the domestic front. But when it comes to the evacuation process, execution of the evacuation process in conflict zones, how does it really happen? Because it's true, like Mr. Jha was pointing out, we have been speaking to the Indian students who are stranded, and some of them have run out of food and essential supply stock. Some of them don't know when they'd ever be able to get in touch with the embassies because they are in Kyiv, they are in a conflict zone, and they don't know how to move out of those bunkers or to go to a nearby railway station, irrespective of the advisories that are being issued.
Swati, thank you very much. Look, I obviously need to stay out of the politics. I want to just say something to you. It is but obvious that given the fact that there are about 18,000 Indians in Ukraine, there are bound to be cases of people who find themselves in difficult situations, and my heart goes out to them. And I'm sure that of my younger colleagues in the Indian Foreign Service who are posted there, the same is the case with them too. So the situation there is one of a warlike situation. It isn't a very simple one. But I want to just make one point, and that is that over the years, India has developed a very robust and good set of standard operating procedures for these kind of situations. We have evacuated people from true war zones, very difficult. In the case of Ukraine, you at least have land borders which are open, which can be relatively easily accessed to. Remember, there are road networks in Ukraine. People can even go to Russia. In fact, I saw a recent report that the Indian embassy in Moscow has moved with the Russian authorities to try and come somewhere near Rostov if they can take out people from that side. So in all sides, efforts are being made. Of course, naturally, these things take time, and I'm sure things are going to be a little tough for those who are caught up in bunkers, etc. But their condition, I dare say, is not going to be much different from their Ukrainian brethren who are also caught up in the same crossfire.
Absolutely. In fact, a new separate Twitter handle has been established, has been opened for the stranded Indians to reach out and for the authorities also to reach out to people. Right now, a high-level meeting is underway where the Foreign Affairs Minister is giving a detailed presentation apprising the Prime Minister of the evacuation process. And politics aside, there are several Indians stranded in very, very difficult situations in the conflict zones, and the evacuation process also needs to gather pace, also needs to be done in a manner in which the authorities reach out to people who are not able to reach these border areas where the actual evacuation process is underway. Thank you very much to Sinha, Sanjay Jha and Manjeep Puri for joining us on the broadcast. We'll have a quick break, but we have a lot more lined up for our viewers on the other side, so stay tuned.